What is up, football fans, USFL fans, to episode 25 of the USFL Authority. Sorry, I came with a lot of energy right there, but I'm excited because we are in our second episode with our second guest for the USFL 50. That is when we took ballots from players, coaches, people who cover the league, and even two fans, and we put all these ballots together and we made the top 50 best players list of the USFL. It is the best consensus list that you are going to find. I promise you that. And as always, I'm your host, Ace, joined by my wonderful co-host, Webb. My brother, our Panthers representative, Maverick, is here to be our guest. And in the background, you'll hear her, but you don't see her. KB, our wonderful producer, is here. So, do we have a good week? Do we like it? Preseason's here. We're watching the NFL, football.
College football is in a week. This weekend,
1 week.
We'll have football all fall from here on out. So I'm ready to go.
How nice is it that we cover this league? We watch the XFL. We cover the USFL. We get football literally year round. I watched some of a CFL game this year, so that counts. So we get football all year long. Right?
It just makes me sad to think about all the people who refuse to watch the USFL and XFL or just don't know about it. They're just missing out on all that football all year round.
Well, think about it.
They're like, I can't wait for the draft.
100 players have been signed from the XFL or USFL. Think about that. That's a whole team in the NFL. That's 132nd in the league right now. So,
and it gives you, the fact that Maverick and I, we used to watch all the NFL preseason games. It's a part, our family would do that. We would watch it with our dad. We'd watch all the games, but we didn't really know a lot of the people. We were looking for maybe a Baylor guy, an Illinois guy,
Kyle
Slaughter. Yeah, Kyle Slaughter, checking him out. I was like, this guy sucks. And then, and I laughed when he was drafted in the USFL. But now that we watch the spring leagues, we covered the USFL, I talked to a lot of these guys. I'm invested in it. And I love when you see a USFL guy go out there and balling it up, which kind of leads us into our first person of the night, which is number 42. It's a great transition. Number 2 on the USFL top 50 is our man, Levi Bell. Now, that's probably the reason that we wanted to have Maverick on this episode, is that it's a little Panther heavy for this one. I believe there's 2 that we're going to talk about in the next 7. Also, we're going to, just to preface it, we're going to do the next 7 people. So each week we're going to release the next 7. So for the countdown until the next episode. There you go. So number 42, Levi Bell. Maverick, what do you think of him?
I hate that he's number 42 because if you actually go back and watch all the Panthers games, yes, he was a little overshadowed by Breland Speaks and Frank Ginda, but my gosh, the first week I didn't know his name. By the end of the first game, I knew his name. He was involved in every tackle. It seemed like he was always on the ball. It was unbelievable. He still managed to have, I think, 4 or 5 sacks while Breland Speaks led the league in sacks and Frank Ginda was getting sacks. He was unbelievable, and it's showing here going forward into the NFL. He's with the Seattle Seahawks now, who played my Vikings week 1. He made a couple tackles, and actually here in week 2 of the preseason, he's the highest, PFF graded player on the Seahawks defense. So kind of crazy to be. Obviously, the starters aren't playing, but he's making a really good case for making that team.
He played only 6 games in the USFL and had 4 sacks.
Yeah. He's there. He's one of their college drafts.
Yeah, and the fact that he had 4 sacks in 4 starts, that's crazy to me. I know he was pretty good against the Maulers later on in the season. Levi Bell is exactly what this league is for, because it gave him an opportunity to shine, and now he's on Seattle, and it looks like he's got a pretty good shot. If you compare all the guys that have been signed, he's got a pretty good shot of sticking with the Seattle Seahawks. So his number is probably too low in terms of talent, overall talent, but production, you got to kind of put him at 42. I think he's pegged right, but if you're just going talent-wise, he's probably should be higher than 42.
100%. But the fact that he made it on the list, that he joined after the college draft, he's out of Texas State, a small school. He's exactly what the USFL is looking for. And the Sun Belt. He's exactly what the USFL is looking for as a league. He came in, he dominated in the few games he got to start. quickly started. He comes in late in the middle of the season, works into the starting lineup to start the last 4 games, get sacks, produces, get signed. Now he is the third highest graded player by PFF, defensive rookie in the NFL preseason. The third highest. Number 1 is Will Anderson, who is, he's supposed to be like the defensive player of the year. And 2 spots below him on PFF's grades in the preseason is Levi Bell. So the albino rhino is out here making a name for himself. I saw someone post that about him, and it's kind of perfect because if you look at his profile pictures on his socials, it's just in a gym shirtless, and he does look like an albino rhino. You can't say enough good about Levi Bell. And he shouted out the USFL in an interview during the preseason. So he's talking about the league. He's a great guy that we can get behind. He's perfect. He's fantastic. I wish he was a gambler. All right. Yeah, and then, great. I mean, we could probably talk about him for a long time, but we have 6 more dudes that we need to talk about. So going into the next one is number 41. One of my favorite numbers in the world is 41. And here's a guy who has made the list both years. You covered him last year, Webb, when you were our Breakers guy before you saw the light and moved over to the Maulers. Last year, he was number 44 on our USFL 50. This year, he's number 41. I'll let you start, Webb.
He's the most fun linebacker in the league, like to follow when they mic him up. He talks trash the entire time. Yeah. I love it. I love it. As a Breaker fan or not a Breaker fan, I just love it. He's great for the league. On the United by Football last year, I know it's supposed to be this year, but on United by Football, when they followed him around, he's just a good story, underdog story. I'm shocked that he is at 41. I thought he would be bumped up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Last year he was kind of blended in with the Bellamy's, and Fernandez had a big season, and Ike Brown, and they had a more popular defense. So like I got why he was kind of lower
a little bit.
But at 41, I thought he'd be a little bit higher. He had less interceptions this year, but he did have that touchdown for the second straight year. He had more tackles this year, though, and about the same amount of sacks. So I just feel maybe that's where he is, but I would rate him a little bit higher, like higher, closer to 1.
I agree. He should be higher on the list. We'll say higher is better. We'll say that's better on the list. He should be higher. I think that he is falling to the curse of you are the company that you keep. And this season, the Breakers defense was not the season 1 Breakers defense we saw. They stepped way back. The best that they looked was against the Maulers, who had the worst offense
in week 1.
In week 1.
It was week 1.
Yeah, but that was the best that their defense looked.
Ask Maverick what the offense looked like towards at the end. The North.
I get that. It looked better. There was a shootout there. It was more fun. But their defense didn't look the same. They didn't have the Bellamy. They didn't have the Ike Brown. The only gleaming light, the one bright side of their defense was Vontae Diggs. And so it's nice he didn't fall back, the way that Adam Rodriguez did. Adam Rodriguez completely fell down the list, where Vontae Diggs moved up 3 spots when his defense was worse. His big plays were less. He just had more tackles, but I'm just glad he made it. I'm glad he moved up, because he easily could have fallen off the list with the way that their defense went. A lot of people just didn't want to look at the Breakers defense. I know I had trouble looking at their defense and saying, yeah, that's a good dude there. I know.
Lowe was arguing that was the best defense in the league.
The best defense in the league. Yeah, he's going to say that.
I know it's low. It's homerism all the way. I thought that defense was pretty good. I thought it was better than the Gamblers defense.
He thinks Jesus Christ himself roots for the Breakers. But
and he does.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah.
Like you said, this Breakers defense was not the same as it was in season 1. And I think because of that, offenses, they key on the good defensive players. And I mean, that's what they were doing to him. So, they're running away from him. They're passing away from him. So it's natural that his defensive stats are going to go down. It's natural. He's going to get less interceptions, less tackles, maybe. Actually, he got more. So he was getting even more involved. But I like him at this spot. I don't exactly remember where I put him, but probably somewhere similar to around here. I do think he's a big name, great for the league, and very talented player. So I like him in the low 40s.
And a potential free agent.
A potential free agent could move teams this offseason come October. So we'll see about that. I think there's going to be a lot of shakeup, especially in the South. Teams really want to get the South wants to move around. They want to beat the Stallions. So I could see a lot of movement. So you either want to beat them and you go up north or you join them. Mark Thompson looks like he's trying to get on the Stallions. So we'll see what all shakes out. But he said he's a big name. He's one of those guys that in the offseason, we were talking about Frank Ginda and Kiava Tizino, and we didn't know if they would get picked up by an NFL team. It was looking less and less likely. Now they're both on a team. It's awesome. But Webb kept saying that these are guys who will be USFL faces. And I think that really has fallen onto Vontae Diggs. He's one of those guys that he's a little too old. He's not as fast as he was when he was younger, and he's probably not going to move back up to the league, but he could be one of those guys that USFL fans know, and they say, I watched him for years in the USFL, 10 years from now. They're like, Vontae Diggs, that guy was a star in the USFL. So he's one of those guys, and, you can look at it as a positive or a negative, but I think it's really cool that he might be a guy that is just a USFL household name. But a guy who is not really a USFL household name, unless you were in Memphis, is our next guy on this list, number 40. We're already 10 in, guys. Look at that. Troy Warner, which, pop quiz, Maverick, who is his brother?
It's Fred Warner, the linebacker for the 49ers.
Fred Warner. And I think is it still our most popular tweet that has ever gone out?
Man. Yeah.
It's still our most popular tweet that's ever gone out. When he signed, we put out our signing graphic back in the day. Brandon posted it, the captain, and Fred Warner quote tweeted it, I think.
Yep.
Which is bonkers. So Fred Warner, an all-pro linebacker for the 49ers, quote tweeted our tweet, as United Football Media, and it had like 80,000 views or something on it. Yeah. Just a crazy tweet. And I was kind of worried because you see a lot of these younger brothers of players, especially when they fall into more alt football leagues, that sometimes they're going to get there for the name. Let's look at Arch Manning, that kid. If he wasn't a Manning, he would have been a one-star recruit. But
spoken like an older brother. Just
you go.
Throwing that out there.
So I was worried that Troy Warner was going to come into the league, and they're kind of like, he's a Warner, he can do it, and maybe he'd end up a backup the entire time. But he was silently one of the best safeties in the league, like hands down. So
yeah, I think they might have had, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I'm probably going to stop mid-sentence, but they might have had the best safety room.
The best safety room.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that. No, I'd agree with that, because when you look at the maulers, linebackers and defensive line are about hands down the best.
Whoa, be careful. Be careful. Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the one
include the corners.
The one defensive position group where you can say, oh, maybe there's another team that's better is their safeties. It's just their safeties. Those guys, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. They're Tarpley and Tornadin are great.
Eli Walker, but whatever.
Eli Walker playing nickel and dime. But if you look at Kyrie Woods and Troy Warner, those guys are insane. The fact that Kyrie Woods was still the highest graded player after he was injured for a couple games, that dude balls. So that room, I'm sure we'll see Kyrie Woods later on this list. But Troy Warner led the team in tackles. He's a Warner. He was silent. People didn't talk about him for some reason. Yeah. And he led the team in tackles. He led the team in solo tackles. He had an interception. The kid was everywhere. So,
well, and it's kind of the curse of DBs. The better you are, kind of the less you get talked about, because the ball, just like for good defense players, the ball doesn't come your way. They tend to stay away from it. And so, I'm a sucker for safeties that come up and hit, make the tackles. So I really like Warner. I love a good DB. I think he's probably around where he should be, if not maybe a little lower, but I think he's pretty good. And I may be a little biased with, my Panthers and where I think all of them need to be, because I thought our defense was easily second best in the league.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm watching.
I think we could agree with that.
He's like
about
second.
to go over the edge.
Second.
He's about to go over the edge.
Like, I know.
I think
he thinks the show
good
goes
argument for a second. Yeah. Right.
The Showboats were first, especially that week that they lost by over 40 points. But
they stepped it up after that. That was their wake-up call.
I think Warner is perfectly placed. 71 tackles, 1 interception. He was a force all year. Came up in run coverage. I just think this is perfectly placed, really. I don't think he should be higher, but I think he should be on the list.
I can agree with that. I think he's about where he needs to be. Without making a huge splash, but still being statistically one of the better players on his team, this is about where you'd land. So I agree. And then the next guy, talk about making a splash, is Mr. Brandon Aubrey of the Birmingham Stallions, who I absolutely love that he was super nice and remembered who I was when I met him at the championship this year. But that guy is making a name for the USFL. He is now the starting kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. 2 years in a row that he's an all-USFL kicker. Right? He was the all-USFL kicker this year.
Wasn't. He wasn't. Not this year.
It was Luis Aguilar.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I digress. Without the 8 field goal game, Brandon Aubrey's still the best kicker in this league. He is Auburmatic. The dude's ridiculous. But he did fall. He fell pretty far this year. So
I do want to point out that I did coin the nickname Auburmatic.
He did.
I don't think he's ever said it yet. I've been watching for tweets from him, him in interviews to say it. I don't think he's said it yet, but one day he's going to get it. Also, I do appreciate, and I think it's probably the best thing about the Dallas Cowboys is their willingness to start USFL players. So Thanks, Cowboys.
True. That's the one thing I like about them. I don't like the Cowboys. We're from Texas. You either love or hate them, and we are definitely on the hate train. But Aubrey went into camp, won the spot, but last year he was number 29 on the list, and now he's 39. He fell 10 spots.
Well, I probably helped that because I didn't vote for a kicker at all.
You're a bad person.
I think I'm top 20. I didn't vote for him. If you're talking the top 50 players, they're important, but the top 50 players, this league is so deep. I'm sorry, a guy that comes on 5 times a game and a couple kickoffs
and is one of the leading scorers of the league.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I mean,
that's just me. When I'm ranking 50 players, are they important?
You didn't put a kicker. Luis Aguilar led the league in points.
Okay, when you have opportunity, that's fine. You're only. I just disagree in the top 50, and I'll take the heat.
He's starting for the Cowboys.
That's great. I'm applauding him. Kickers are important. Just when I'm ranking top players, if I'm a GM, and that's kind of when I went by. They're my 51st player I'm worried about on my roster. I'm just saying.
That's why you're not a GM.
We had GMs put in ballots.
If you remember the original USFL draft, remember there were teams that just passed on kicker and punter.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, look at how it worked out.
Let me worry about my offensive line depth, and then I'll figure out the kicker. Because guess what? If my offensive line isn't figured out, my kicker is not kicking anything except the halftime kickoff. That's it.
Jeff Fisher was so ashamed he didn't even come back for season 2.
And he should be.
I'm not saying
we lost like 3 games in a row.
A good kicker. I'm not saying just bring on some guy that's sitting on the sidelines. I'm saying when I'm ranking the top 50 players, they're just not there. And I love Matt Mangle. And I did not put a punter either. So
whatever. Auburmatic, if you're watching this, you were like in my top 20. So maybe number 20.
I think he was in my top 20.
Hey, we had one ballot without getting into it that had a kicker in the top 10. So it wasn't like that's the complete opposite of me. So it balanced.
Very different.
Yeah.
But moving on to number 38 on the list, someone that was nobody really talked about, DJ Daniel. Safety for the New Jersey Generals. This guy led his team in interceptions, which this year interceptions were less as the league as a whole, but he had 3 interceptions, led the team. He was up there in tackles, had more tackles than Hercules Mataafa. So the dude was a solid player. The fact that he's higher than Troy Warner, it really shows how much people value interceptions over tackles.
Yeah, and I think the all USFL nod helped out too, because when you're looking at those lists, you have to remember that the players and the coaches vote on that. I don't know the exact formula, so for him to get that recognition, yes, his name was quiet all year. I didn't watch a ton of Generals because they weren't really exciting, Obviously, you paid attention to him. But a corner that you don't hear about usually, except snap counts, usually is a pretty good corner, right? Mm-hmm. And I just feel like DJ Daniel was solid. I think he's properly rated here. I always agree with the list. So, anyways, continue on.
I don't agree with the list. I know he was all USFL, but I think Troy Warner should have been higher. I could have seen DJ Daniel in the 40s. What do you think, Mav?
I actually had him higher than this spot, so I'll have to disagree with you.
Well,
I just,
okay.
There were a lot of good corners, but there weren't a lot of elite corners in this league. I think you could probably say there were maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6. And I think he was one of them. And so, he was a part of a team and a defense that really didn't make any splashes. They weren't winning games. They weren't doing much anything. So his name kind of fell to the wayside, but I do think that he was a fantastic corner. When he played the Panthers, you could tell who he was covering because they weren't getting the ball. So, and not that the Panthers have a super high-powered wide receiver room, but it's pretty dang good. So
pretty great
for having
2 of them
corners
in the NFL.
Shut them down. So, so I like him here. I would have liked to see him higher, but I can understand why he would have been here.
He's no Christian Tutt, but that was a joke for Webb. No, he is better than Christian Tutt. I think he was overshadowed. When I think of the New Jersey Generals defense, I think Toby Johnson. I think Chris Orr, who I think was probably the singularly best overall linebacker in the league, in my opinion. I know Kiavit Tizino is fantastic, but Chris Orr, Ginda. Okay, so Ginda would be number 1, but I think Chris Orr would be about number 2 because just as a linebacker as a whole, you watch the dude and you think NFL. And if he hadn't gotten hurt for a good portion of the season, I think he'd be super high on this list, and I think he might be in the NFL. But I think them, and I think Shalom Luani, if you think they're secondary, I always think Shalom Luani first. So DJ Daniel will fall back in my mind, and I'm not thinking about him as much when he's just got this great talent around him. So that's probably why, in my mind, he's a little too high. But I digress. We move on to number 37. One of these guys that Maverick absolutely snubbed because he didn't put a single offensive lineman on his list. But Paul Adams.
Hold on. You guys are giving me – hold on. Something just clicked with me. You guys are giving me crap for not having a kicker and a punter. But you leave the whole offensive line in your ballots legit.
It's valid. Yes. Okay.
It's valid.
So the thing is, and I'll admit to it, I am one of those terrible people in this world that does not appreciate the men in the trenches enough. I couldn't tell you what happened in the trenches during a play because I'm too busy watching the quarterback, watching the wide receivers, watching the safeties. And so I didn't feel I knew enough to give a good opinion on the lineman. And I didn't want to, put an offensive lineman that shouldn't even be on the list at 12 because I don't know any better. So I just figured, my vote wasn't going to matter in the grand scheme of things when it came to offensive linemen. So just let it fall where it may. And I hope I didn't hurt any of their chances in the top 50 by not putting them in.
If anything, you just brought all their averages down. So if a guy was in the top 10, you probably brought him down to like 12.
You brought 15, him to 11. So. You just hurt him. You just hurt him.
You're welcome.
Could have got a top 10 ranking or a unanimous selection. But this guy was pretty good.
Kickers are more exciting than linemen. I think linemen are probably more important.
They absolutely are.
Even you could have the best quarterback in the world, but if you don't put a line in front of them and they have no time, look at Hard Knocks, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. He's practicing against the Panthers, who granted have a good D-line, but he has no time and they looked absolutely atrocious. They have 2 $10 million wide receivers, one of the best quarterbacks in history, and they looked awful. So offensive linemen, I think they're probably the most offensive and defensive linemen are the most valuable positions. If you're trying to start a good team, I don't know enough. I never played linemen. I don't watch the linemen. I think I almost
PFF grades.
Yeah,
had PFF grades this year.
I did look at them, but all of the people that I was like reading about and watching the highlights of were not all USFL. They were the top PFF grades, and they weren't all USFL. So I was like, man, something here is not clicking.
Okay. Well, I like Paul Adams. He was definitely on my list. The dude, he absolutely protected the edge. Wes Hills, every time he hit outside and got a full head of steam, I didn't like it. So Paul Adams had a direct hand in that. And they were number 1 in the league in passing yards. You don't do that if you can't protect your quarterback at all. I know that they weren't great in sacks, but Paul Adams was not the problem.
Here's what I want to know.
Yes.
Webb.
Yeah.
How many games did the Maulers play that they scored no touchdowns?
The first 2.5.
And you didn't think a kicker was important enough to put on your list?
No, I don't because honestly, I guess I would consider Blewett, but I still don't. No, I don't. Because if that defense doesn't hold them, who cares if we're kicking field goals? We're not kicking field goals. You know what I mean?
All you did in the championship was kick field goals.
Yeah, I know, but what was more important? So Blewett had a pretty good game in the championship outside of that missed field goal, right? He had a very good game, but guess what? No one was covering Deion Kane. Guess what? That was more important. Those type of players are more important in my mind. You're talking to me, and this guy, our guest, doesn't have an offensive lineman. They give you a list of all USFL, and he doesn't have an offensive lineman.
It's rough.
All I know is, your team didn't have. Yeah, but I'm just surprised by it. I love Chris Blewett. I'm just surprised by it. That's all.
He's a fan of the show.
Yeah,
he was the points leader for your team, and you didn't put him on your list.
We talk about me and Alex in the 3 episodes. We've talked about Chris Blewett a ton. Alex loves Chris Blewett. I just won't put him on the top 50. I love Matt Mangle. I'd rather put Henny and Simmons and even Boogie and Olive, and those guys are more valuable to me, in my opinion.
Got it. All right, just a question.
I'll give Maverick a pass on this one because he doesn't even look at offensive linemen, but. Webb, what do you think of Paul Adams out there for the Breakers?
I think Paul Adams kind of had the same type of season the Breakers did. The offensive line seemed to protect MBT at the beginning when they were rolling, and then they kind of fell apart, and the offense fell apart, and then they bounced back towards the end, and then the playoff game, we already know what happened. But I just think the offensive line kind of blends in with that. They were giving time to Wes Hills and to run the ball or opening holes for him. They're giving time to MBT, and I think Paul Adams was a big factor in that. And I think he deserves – I don't know if he's on 37, but I think he should be in the top 50.
I think he is because, I watched a lot of Breakers. I pay a lot of attention to the South. And something that I genuinely noticed, because I'm trying to think, how do the Gamblers line up against them? How are we going to do when we play them? And MBT was getting sacked a lot. He was the, 3rd most sacked quarterback in the league, which for one is because he played all 8 games and, at quarterback. But the interior of their offensive line was bad. It was not very good. That's where all the penetration was coming. If they were going against a very good defensive tackle, say, what's his name, John Atkins for the Showboats, he was tearing them apart, but it was never someone on the outside who was getting in. Paul Adams was always very solid.
So, I don't know what Breland Speaks. He's the perfect example because the defensive end. I don't know what Breland Speaks did against the Breakers, but I know he tore up. How many sacks did Breland Speaks had? He had 9?
Yes.
And I think he had 5 against the Maulers, which were the tackles they struggled most of the season. Yeah. But I don't think he did much against the Breakers. So I agree with you 100%. Their weakest part was down the middle.
Yeah, their bookends were not bad.
Yeah.
But something that is going to surprise some fans and is tough, and we're probably going to hear about it on Twitter when we post about this, is coming in at number 36, our last person that we're going to talk about of the night. Reggie Corbin, my man.
I'm going to go first here because I'm just going to quote another great USFL running back. Y'all high. Y'all high. Like Reggie Corbin, I don't understand. Like, when I figured out this list, I was like, wow, he's really, really Reggie Corbin should be top 20, in my opinion. He's every time he touches the ball, you can take it to the house. when a guy rushes for 400 yards, and he actually improved his receiving this year, right? He had 25 receptions. Last year, I think he had like 11. He had 34 targets, so he's catching every ball that is thrown to him. Love, E.J. Perry, and Carson Strong. 400 yards, kick return. Like, the guy does everything. Just give him the ball, all right? Just give him the ball. And I think he's the most anticipated free agent right now in the entire league.
I agree. Matt, what do you think?
I think he kind of set a reputation the first season with how good he was. And he was, what was he, 11?
He was 9 last year.
9. So he's top 10. And so it was just, for me, it was the fact that, and I love Reggie, don't get me wrong. Talent-wise, it's like Levi Bell. He deserves to be way up there. I think he's probably, in my opinion, which is super biased, I think he's top 5 most talented players in the league. I mean, I love him that much. I don't think there's anybody in this league besides, I mean, in the past 2 seasons, I don't think there's anyone more explosive other than maybe Turpin. He's unbelievable. All you got to do is get him some space. And I think the Panthers just did a really poor job of getting him that space. Our blocking just wasn't as good this year. Our play calling wasn't as good this year of trying to get him the ball with some space. He still did great with it. And talent-wise, I think he belongs way up there. And the fact that he's still top 6, I think, in rushing yards this season with 430, I mean, he still contributed even without playing every single game. Stevie Scott took a couple starts. So now that we've talked through it, I would have put him, like, I would like to see him a little higher. And then talent-wise, he should be way up there. But if we're just going off performance, he's close to probably where he should be. And
so
I love
all the
you,
love
Reggie.
is in Pittsburgh. It's not in Michigan.
I love you, Reggie.
Yeah, you better say I love you, Reggie.
No, I love you, Reggie.
I love you, Reggie. Where's yours, Mav?
It's right behind me. Hold on.
Behind him. He has one. Yeah, but
I'll just hold it for the rest of the show.
There you go. No, Reggie is a great back. It's interesting to me that he has not gotten signed now in both offseasons so far. Stevie Scott has been signed in both. It shows that Stevie Scott is, 1, a little more durable. He comes in and he fills in when Reggie is hurt. And 2, he's a different kind of back. Stevie Scott is very much a battering ram downhill, where Reggie, he's like Boobie Miles in Friday Night Lights. He needs his knees and he needs to be mobile and elusive, and that's what makes him great. And so he takes a lot of hits and he is used a lot. The fact that he's probably the best player on their team and they have him returning kicks blows my mind. You know, it was just a matter of time. The dude got hurt. He got hurt on a kick return. You should not be using him for that when your offense is that bad. Your offensive line looks terrible. Josh Love probably didn't deserve the hate he got, but he had 0 time. They wouldn't give holes to Reggie a lot of the time he came in. I mean, the fact that he made number 36 on this list with the offensive line in front of him, is amazing. And yeah, he fell a lot, but I don't know. Like Mav said, he set a precedent last year. Mm-hmm. And then this year you have Mark Thompson, you have Wes Hills, Darius Victor. I'm sure he fell too. These are guys that were fantastic. They were their entire offense last year. And now people are catching up. The disparity is not there as much, and they're falling back on the list, even when they probably deserve to still be up there.
Mav, I got a quick question for you. Paxton Lynch or Josh Love? Which one do you like better?
That's an easy question.
I mean, I personally like Josh Love more.
Okay.
I mean, right. he won more games.
What about Shea Patterson and Josh Love?
Man, I would take Shea over Paxton.
No, yeah, but I'm talking Love.
I would take. That's a little tougher, but I'd probably take Love still.
Okay, so you had a better quarterback, right? So Marty was calling more passing plays this year.
That's true.
You actually had a passing offense. Josh Love, ask the Gamblers, right? What did he do against?
Yeah, Josh Love. He had 2 weeks where he was offensive player of the week.
So Reggie's numbers really didn't. He had less than 100 yards. He had 437 this year, 519 last year. so less than 100 yards, didn't play the full season, and they had a better offense passing-wise. Yeah. Was the offensive line not that good? I agree with you on that. I just think Reggie's numbers fell because the Panthers were actually pretty good. Like, they were actually competitive. And I think they had more options on offense. So I think I love Reggie. I'm putting the full court press here. If he really does go free agency, black and gold, man. Black and gold. Let's go.
Well, I do like that you brought up his all-purpose yards, though, because I think a lot of people doing this list didn't think about that. They thought of him in completely a running back capacity. They're not thinking about the fact that I think for most of the season, he was averaging the most return yards on a kickoff. The dude, he's great all-purpose. He's going to help you everywhere but defense, basically.
But he also improved his receiving yards. Like, he had 34 targets this year and caught the ball 25 times. So he was able, and I know the quarterback was better this year, but he was able to grow on his game a little bit. And I'm telling you right now, I love Reggie Corbin.
We all love Reggie Corbin here. That's not what I'm saying.
I think 36 is disrespectful towards him.
Yes, I do feel it sucks, and we're definitely going to hear about it.
Yeah.
But I will say we'll worry about a kicker on the team, but Reggie Corbin needs to be higher. We need to correct that. We need to correct that before we start worrying about kickers and punters on the
Let's just say that there were more people than just us voting on this.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like, it's not like Reggie Corbin is, only number 6. 30,
he's 36 on all of our lists.
36 based on a list that the three of you voted. Like we had votes coming from all over the place.
It is kind of it does stink a little bit that whoever posts the graphic, then that person, if the player doesn't like that, or if their fan base doesn't like where that player is, that person takes all the heat. Where that person, Mark Thompson last year, I think I had him in the 20s, but he landed at 43, and I'm the one who got the y'all high. So, it is not our list. It is a cumulative list. It is not just.
I'll post the graphic. If you don't want to take the heat, I'll post the graphic, and I will sell him my pitch of why he needs to leave Michigan and come a little bit more south and wear the black and gold. I'll do your
top 10 next year on the list in black and gold.
I'll do it only for you, Mav. Like, no one else. I want to do it for Ace. I'm not worried about Mark Thompson.
Don't you take it,
Reggie Corbin, black and gold.
I think everybody wants Reggie Corbin in their colors.
So in 1 week, if you're busy, just let me know. I'll post a graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Should I do jersey swaps of Reggie Corbin? Put him in a Maulers jersey. Put him in a Gambler's jersey.
As long as you do it poorly. So he thinks
do it poorly. So he's like, that's trash.
Yeah, I don't want to look like that.
I love it.
Well, you can't really mess up the Gambler's jersey. It's just all black.
It is black. It's almost what I'm wearing right now.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. I do hope, there is talks right now that the league might use Starter to promote their jerseys and on-field stuff. So that would be really exciting. We'd have an actual brand for the jerseys instead of what I think the only team that had any kind of logo on it was the Panthers. Had the Rocket Mortgage logo on it this year. So it would be nice to have, a little Starter logo, a name brand jersey. That'd be really cool. And I hope with that comes minor tweaks, because I would love to see something cool on the Gambler's jersey, man. I want a stripe on the helmet. That's all I want. Red and white stripe. That's all I need. But whatever. But other than that, there hasn't been that big of news. I assume that there's going to be a lot of coaching and player changes coming, but we're not going to hear about that until October. So
I do have one thing I want to talk about real quick.
What is that?
I actually want to make Webb talk about real quick.
Good.
I want Webb to talk about Boogie Roberts today.
Yes.
Let's talk about it, guys.
Boogie spent some time with Fox Sports and is trying out for a color commentator, studio kind of guy. It's all over his Instagram story.
Yeah.
His Twitter. He's really promoting it, and we all know that he would be great at it.
He's made for it.
He's so good.
So I wish him to cover college football. It would be great. He grew up a big fan of Warren Sapp, and I think he's exactly like Warren Sapp. Not the. I don't know about the personal stuff, right, Warren?
No.
I'm saying personality-wise,
on camera,
Boogie is that defensive lineman that gives you that perspective, and it's fun and it's fresh. And I wish him nothing but the best and whatever he decides to do. And it'd be awesome to see him on FS1 covering, like, even in the studio. I think he'd be really good in the studio. I'm not saying his X's and O's wouldn't be great, like in the broadcast, but in the studio, Boogie,
personality.
Personality comes out a little. It's not so serious. He could talk a little trash, which would fit Boogie. Boogie.
How about Boogie on Undisputed going up against Skip Bayless?
He did so good in that Cleveland show.
No, he did.
I love that. I'm super pumped for him. So
my favorite part is when he was singing Beyonce to Vito in the last game. He's like, everything in the box to the left, and I'm like, he's like, legit. You haven't even left the field. I know they are like,
they're friends.
They share the same apartment building. They're in the same apartment building, so they see each other all the time. But he just talks a lot of trash. So I think studio would be perfect. He would be perfect for a format like this, like a debate show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that you bring up Warren Sapp. I remember the summer. There was a summer in high school, I think, going into my freshman year of high school when football was getting, really big and was becoming a huge part of my life. I decided I really wanted to get to know all the players and know everything there is to know about football. And I watched the 30 for 30 about the 2003 to 4 season where the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl with Warren Sapp, John Gruden, John Lynch, Darren Brooks, all these amazing players. And I loved Warren Sapp. And then I went and watched NFL Total Access every day for an entire summer with Warren Sapp on it. And I loved the man. And you're right. I never put the two together, but him and Boogie are very similar. And if he can bring that kind of energy to FS1, I will watch a college football pregame show.
That was his favorite player growing up. So it makes perfect sense. He's a Buccaneers fan because of it. So it fits perfectly. But yeah, I just wish him the best. And
for sure,
Boogie's one of the best personalities in the league. So
yeah,
it's one of the best people in the league.
Yeah,
we love Boogie here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
all right,
Reggie
that's
Corbin.
all I got. That's all I got. And, and Reggie Corbin.
The Boogie Monster.
Oh, nice shirt.
Yeah, right. That's what he said. Yeah.
He reps Boogie a lot. Boogie's done a lot for us, and I love that it's the league of opportunity, not just to get to the NFL, but the USFL. Without that, Boogie doesn't get on that Cleveland show, and maybe that that was the avenue that got him now onto FS1. So it really is the league of opportunity, no matter what you're trying to do in football, all that. It's pretty great.
The thing about us, the league of opportunity, we were just sports nerds.
I wouldn't even know you
a year and a half ago.
I wouldn't even know you.
Now we're covering this on a daily basis. Like we legit talk USFL.
We talk about it every day.
365.
I am the newest person in KB's family marrying her daughter, and I talk to her the most of anybody in that family, including her mother, who she lives with. So.
Right. I talk to Ace way more than I talk to my daughter. Yep.
That's true.
I love it.
Why would you do that? He's a Gamblers fan.
I
know.
I don't know. Somebody's got to tell him what to do.
I try.
All right, guys.
But
are we done?
I think we're done. This has been a good one.
We're done.
Man, other than you guys snubbing kickers and offensive linemen, I love this one.
I do too.
No, you guys snubbing Reggie Corbin. Let's be real.
No. You snub kickers and punters.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
All right. Good night,
Reggie, watch
sir.
this episode. I'm gonna
Mav, come on.
Don't mess with Texas. Cal, you gotta throw it up.
You gotta throw it up.
Throw it up and fall back.
All right.